Omaha is probably the most complicated game in the world. I mean, obviously the way these kids bash and crack at it, you know, I mean, there's a lot of kids on that final can't spell Omaha. You know, I mean, and the way these young kids bash and crash and smash about, what happens basically is you end up with some young kids with loads of chips. You know, so really, the good players, it's hard for them to get a load of chips together because they're not playing it at the same speed these young kids are playing at. And some of these young kids are going to get lucky even though they're playing bad. So you're always going to go to the final table probably with a lot less chips than the bad player. But hopefully, if the blinds are reasonable on the final table, you're going to get them. There's some basic strategies to Omaha which a lot of people, most Omaha players know nowadays because of the DVDs and books and stuffs. But there's a few new players out there I'm sure won't know. And basically what it is if you're playing with wrapping cards, straightening cards, you know, basically you don't want to be playing with small straightening cards, i.e. 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, because you can catch the nuts and next card it goes higher. And now all of a sudden, you haven't got the nuts and you don't know where you are. So basically, you want to be playing with high cards and you always want to have a 10 jack in your hand, i.e. 8, 9, 10 jack. You know, 10 jack, queen, king, 10 jack, queen, ace, 10 jack, king, ace. And 10 jack gives you the 4 nut straight draws. So you've always drawn to the nuts. Now, the other thing about wrapping cards is if you've got a gap in your cards, it should always be at the bottom, not the top. If you've got a gap in your 4 cards that are straightening cards, you should always have 10 jack in there. You should always be playing with the high cards, never the low ones. Obviously, it's better if you're suited, but whatever. But the main thing is if you've got a gap in it, has to be at the bottom. So if you catch the gap card, whatever it is, you're now going up. You know, you're not going down. It's no good. It's no good having the gap at the top and you catch it. Now you're straight going downwards. You know that's Mug's game. So 10 jack in your hand always, gap at the bottom always, and basically. If you play with big cards in Omaha, really, it sort of falls into place. There is a basic game of Omaha you can play, which I know a lot of people, who have played and been successful, and they just wait, basically, for massive hands. They don't play with 3 good cards and 1 bad card, unless they've obviously got double ace, king, 3 or something. But they have 4 good cards working for them all the time. And that's what you should do, really. And then if you hit the flop, you hit it in a big way, and it all falls into place. If you're playing with rubbish, that's what you end up with, If you play with half an hand, you end up with half a flop. And you end up getting it in the ass, basically.
How do you know in Omaha then? Basic question from a Hold'em player. How do you know in Omaha on a raggedy flop if bottom set is good?
You shouldn't be in there with small pairs, so you're never going to have bottom set. So you never have to make them decisions.
But as an example, let's say it's folded to you on the button, you got like 7, 7, 8, 9. You would open that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and stacks are deep. Small blind re-raises you, then you're double suited. Would you call there?
Yeah, on the button I would, yeah.
So let's say then comes something like 10, 7, 2.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's actually silly because you got a big hand. Okay. Okay, let's say comes Queen 7, 2.
Yeah.
And he bets, that's middle. Let's say comes Queen Jack 7. There we go, it's better. And he bets out. How do you know if your 7s are good?
Well, what you got to do basically is, when it's Queen Jack 7, for instance, what I would do in that situation is usually there's a flush draw anyway, right? Okay. And there's obviously straightening cards there now. Any card from an 8 to an ace puts a straight there. So what I might do in that situation is, first of all, the guy might have a big wrap. In which case you don't want to get busy anyway. He's got a big hand. It might be, it could be 4 to 6 on with a big wrap and a flush draw to beat your set anyway. And secondly, as you pointed out, you might have the worst hand. So what I would do is let a card come off. And if it flush comes off or a straightening card comes off, hopefully he's going to check it down with you. I don't want to get busy with bottom set. I'm quite happy to check it down. I might put a raise in if he's a weak player and see where I'm at. But the trouble is there's a flush draw and a straight draw there, and you put a raise in with your bottom set, it might re-raise you anyway with a flush draw and a straight draw. You see a wrap?
Let's say the turn does brick off. They're going to fire again whether they've got the set or the big draws or reps. I mean, how can you possibly know, Matt?
I'm going to call them again and see what they do at the end, see what comes off at the end, I'm not going to get busy re-raising them.
Okay.
And obviously make your judgment on how good the player is as well. I mean, because if he's a good player, he's not going to be betting on... If he bets on the flop with a straight draw and a flush draw and he misses it, he's probably going to check the 10. He don't want to have to call a re-raise. You might have top 10. See my point? So it depends who you're playing and what position the raised in, what position the bet in. If they raise before the flop, so they might have big pairs in around. You've got to take all this into account. Try and lose the minimum in hands where you're not sure about, which you can do in Omaha and you can't do in Hold'em. In Oldham, you have to make a decision, and you got to make a move, basically.
Yeah.
In Omaha, you can keep the spot small when you're not sure about it, and when you've got them strangled, get busy.